Hey everyone, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
So, today we're tackling something that, well, it can feel like a pretty big hurdle, especially if English isn't your native language.
Hmm.
We're talking about job interviews, specifically nailing those interviews conducted in English.
Right. High stakes stuff.
Exactly. And we've got a really handy resource to kick things off. It's a conversation practice audio script, actually designed for English learners getting ready for exactly this.
It was useful.
Yeah. So our mission today is to really dig into that, pull out the best insights, the most practical tips, so that you, listening, can walk into your next English interview feeling, well, more confident and ready.
Absolutely. And this is relevant even if you're not actively job hunting right now,
Let's
isn't it?
say,
I
yeah.
mean, sharpening your professional English, understanding these nuances, it all helps. Or maybe you're just curious about how these things work.
For sure. And what's cool about this source is it's not just a list of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
It actually has role playing, then a breakdown of, where things often go wrong, solid prep strategies, what actually clicks in those conversations.
Nice. Practical.
Yeah, and they even get into the cultural side of things, plus virtual interviews, which is obviously huge now.
Very relevant. Okay, so where do we start? What are those first big challenges that jump out when interviewing in English?
Well, the source highlights, and it's probably no surprise, the anxiety.
Hmm. Speaking a second language under pressure.
Exactly. That pressure cooker environment. But it's more than just the language barrier, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. The source brings up something really key. Different cultural expectations.
Ah, yes.
What reads as confident in one culture might, come across totally differently somewhere else.
Right.
Maybe a bit too much or even not enough.
That's such a crucial layer. And it's not always massive cultural gaps either. Sometimes it's subtle things.
Like these.
Like just navigating the specific jargon, the professional phrases that people use. It can feel like a whole separate dialect sometimes.
Yeah, business speak.
Right. And also just that mental load of thinking on your feet, fielding unexpected questions, all in English, that can really knock you off balance.
It really can. And that leads directly into why preparation is just so vital.
Absolutely.
Our source really hammers this home. Being proactive can take the edge off a lot of these challenges.
So let's dig into those prep tips then. What's first?
Well, the source really stresses practicing common questions.
Okay, standard advice. But how?
Not just thinking about answers, but actually saying them out loud.
Vocalizing.
Yes. They even suggest recording yourself.
Ooh, brave. But I can see why.
Yeah, it feels awkward, maybe, but it's gold for catching, your pacing, maybe a weird intonation or those filler words.
We all do it.
Exactly. Speaking it out loud helps embed that professional language, makes it feel more automatic when you're actually in the interview.
Makes sense. What else on prep?
Company and industry research. Goes without saying, maybe.
You'd think, but maybe not deeply enough sometimes.
Right. It's not just knowing their website homepage. It's about their current situation, their values, the language they use in their field.
So it shows you're genuinely invested.
Precisely. Like, if you know about a recent project or challenge they mentioned in the news, you can tailor your answers. It shows you want this job, not just any job.
Okay, good point. It shows you're already thinking about how you fit in their specific context. The source also mentions crafting a concise professional introduction. That tell me about yourself answer.
Oh, yes, the classic opener.
How long should that be? What goes in it?
Keep it tight. 1 to 2 minutes, max. The source suggests focusing on relevant experience, your current situation, key achievements, and maybe a nod to your career goals, always tailoring it to the role you're interviewing for.
So, not your life story.
Definitely not. They give an example of like a marketing pro. They mention years in digital ads, leading teams, driving engagement, and maybe a quick personal interest, but brief.
Professional, relevant, concise. Got it.
And the last big prep tip is actual conversation practice.
Mock interviews.
Yeah, with friends, language partners, whoever. That real-time back and forth, even if it's low stakes, builds huge confidence for the real thing. It simulates that flow.
So you're less likely to freeze up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we zoom in on some of those common questions now, using the source's advice?
Yeah, let's do it. Starting with that big one, tell me about yourself. We touched on the intro summary, but what's really behind that question? What are they listening for?
Fundamentally, they want your professional story in brief, your career path, your main skills, how you got here, and crucially, how all that connects to this job.
So it's your first chance to frame your narrative for them.
Exactly. Make that strong first impression, set the tone. The example we mentioned earlier does this, well-focused on career stuff, relevant passions, no rambling.
Okay. Next up, the one everyone kind of dreads. What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Mhm.
How do we handle that one without sounding fake or, conversely, too negative?
Yeah, it's a balancing act. For strengths, the source says, be specific. Don't just say team player.
Give an example.
Yes. Give a concrete example, a mini story, showing that strength in action. Quantify it if you can.
Okay. And weaknesses?
Honesty, but with a focus on self-awareness and action.
Action.
Yeah, don't just state a flaw. Explain what it is briefly, and then immediately talk about what you're actively doing to improve it or manage it.
Ah, so you show you're proactive about growth.
Exactly. The source had an example like maybe your weakness is getting bogged down in details.
Okay.
So you mention that, but then you immediately add, so I've been focusing on using time management techniques like X and Y, and that's really helped me prioritize. See, problem, solution, growth.
That makes a lot of sense. It turns a negative into a positive almost. Okay, what about why do you want to work for this company?
This is where that research really pays off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to show genuine, specific interest. Reference something concrete about them that excites you.
Like what?
Could be anything, really.
Yeah.
An innovative project they did, their sustainability efforts, maybe something you read about their positive work culture.
So not just, you seem like a great company.
Please, no.
Yeah.
The example in the source mentioned admiring their sustainable product design and collaborative approach. It connects the company's specifics to the candidate's own values. Much stronger.
Definitely avoids the generic trap.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to those behavioral questions. The tell me about a time when type.
Yes.
The source mentions the STAR method here. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. STAR is fantastic for structuring these answers. It stands for situation, task, action, result.
Okay.
So first, you briefly describe the situation you were in, then the task or challenge you faced. Next, crucially, the specific actions you took, and finally, the result or outcome of your actions.
So it forces you to be specific and tell a complete story.
Exactly. It stops you from rambling and makes your answer really impactful. The source used an example of a customer service manager during a system outage. Laid out the situation, the task, keep customers happy, the actions taken, communication, troubleshooting, and the result, customer retention. Clear, concise, effective.
Got it. STAR method. Really useful framework. Now, the source also analyzed a role play. What techniques came out as particularly effective there?
Yeah, that was interesting. One key thing was balancing confidence with humility.
How so?
Well, the candidate talked about achievements, even used numbers, which is great,
Mhm.
but did it factually, without sounding arrogant. Just stating the results.
Okay. Confident but not cocky.
Exactly. Another big one was directly linking their experience to the specific job needs. They even anticipated a potential concern like moving from B2B to B2C marketing and addressed it head on.
Proactive again. That's smart.
Very. And using storytelling. Instead of just saying, I'm creative, they told a story about a successful campaign that used authentic user stories. Show, don't just tell.
Makes it much more memorable and believable.
Totally. Now, shifting gears slightly, what about the actual language we use? Any specific pointers from the source there?
Yes, definitely. It highlighted using strong action-oriented verbs. Things like I led, I developed, I managed, I implemented, I increased. Shows you took initiative and got results.
Active voice, results focus. Makes sense.
And also using connecting phrases to make your answers flow logically.
Transitions.
Yeah, things like building on that or consequently, or another key factor was it just helps stitch your points together smoothly. Shows clear thinking.
Good point. And what about when talking about tougher things like weaknesses or challenges?
The source suggests language that frames it around learning and growth. Phrasing like, I recognized I needed to improve, or what I learned from that experience was, or I've been working on this by.
Right, always pointing towards improvement and self-awareness.
Exactly. Now, we can't ignore the cultural side of things. What did the source say about navigating those nuances in English interviews?
This is subtle but important. There's often an expectation in, say, US or UK professional settings for a confident self-presentation.
But not too confident.
Right, it's a fine line. Confident, clear about your value, but avoiding anything that sounds like arrogance or putting others down.
Tricky balance.
It can be. And then there are the more physical cues in person, eye contact,
Important.
and the handshake if you're meeting face-to-face. Firm but not bone-crushing.
Haha, right. And punctuality.
Oh, crucial. The source mentions the common wisdom. Aim to arrive maybe 10, 15 minutes early. Shows respect for their time.
Good rule of thumb. Okay, and finally, the virtual interview. So common now. Any specific tips for that format?
Yeah, loads of practical stuff. First, test your tech. Mic, camera, internet connection. Avoid frantic last-minute fixes.
Please, yes. Nightmare scenario.
And think about your background. Keep it professional, tidy. Good lighting helps too, so they can see you clearly.
Makes a difference.
Minimize distractions, let housemates know, silence your phone. And dress professionally, head to toe, even if they only see your top half. It puts you in the right mindset.
Treat it like a real meeting, basically.
Absolutely. And one more thing the source mentioned for virtual, maybe be a little more explicit with your engagement.
How do you mean?
Well, since some nonverbal cues get lost online, consciously nod, use verbal affirmations like, okay, or that makes sense, just to show you're actively listening and enthusiastic.
Compensate for the lack of physical presence. Smart.
Exactly. So quite a lot we've covered there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's try and wrap up with the main takeaways from this deep dive into the source material.
How good.
So, number one, I'd say, is just preparation is everything. Research, practice answers aloud, get those examples ready.
Absolutely. Second, remember the STAR method for behavioral questions. Situation, task, action, result. It's your best friend for clear storytelling.
Right. Third, be specific about what you've achieved. Use numbers, data, concrete examples whenever you can. Don't be vague.
Fourth, always connect your skills and experience back to their needs, the company's needs, the role's requirements. Make it relevant to them.
Good one. And finally, just practice speaking about yourself professionally in English. It builds fluency and confidence.
Couldn't agree more. And that actually brings up a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over.
Okay.
We talked about technical skills and qualifications, obviously important. But how much weight do you think those subtle cultural nuances we discussed actually carry? Could understanding those be almost as critical as your resume?
That's interesting.
Yeah, think about it. What small tweaks in your approach, based on understanding those cultural expectations or virtual interview tips, could genuinely shift an interviewer's perception of you in a positive way? Something to reflect on.
Definitely food for thought. And hey, if you have had experiences with English interviews, good or bad, or questions we didn't cover, feel free to share them. Your insights always help others on the same path.
Indeed. Learning from each other is invaluable.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope it's given you some actionable strategies and a confidence boost for that next job interview